Hello, this is Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu. Our headlines this hour: another setback for the GJA as one of its members files an application for injunction against the swearing-in of Albert Jumfor as GJA president over allegations of bribery leveled against him. You have details of the rates. Also, Finance Ministry assures concerns of Arise Ghana protesters will be addressed as the minority in Parliament pushes for a full-scale probe into the violence that characterized day one of the Kromaeshe demonstrations.
Government will continue to meet all the relevant stakeholders and make sure that together we come out with policies and programs that will address the issues that you have raised here today.
The blood that was spilled yesterday will not be in vain. We in Parliament will demand accountability.
Ejura violence 1 year on, Member of Parliament for Ejura Dumasi takes on the police for stopping the commemoration of the brutalities meted out to some of his constituents by state security agencies.
Somebody to lose their relatives, young ones, as this, and they want to commemorate the annual event, and they are being prevented. I believe it's not in the best direction.
Also in the package, government planning to spend $35 million relocating the Ameri Power Plant to Kumasi. That's according to the minority in Parliament.
In Parliament has noted with grave concern attempts by government to transfer the Ameri Power Plant to Kumasi at a whopping $35 million.
This and more here on Joy News Prime. We are live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV 144. We are also free to air. This is the home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Please stay tuned for details. Hello again, thanks for choosing us. Now, a member of the GJA has filed an application at the Accra High Court seeking to restrain the association from proceeding with the swearing-in of the president-elect Albert Jumfor, who won last Friday's election overwhelmingly. The applicant, Justice Adeboye, wants, among other things, an order to stop Albert Jumfor from carrying himself as president of the Ghana Journalists Association. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has been studying the documents and joins me via Zoom with details. Joseph, first of all, the basis for this application stems from some allegations of bribery that's been leveled against Albert Jumfor. At the time, he was a candidate. What are the details?
Yes, Ernest. And so first, it makes the point that...
Joseph, you'd have to unmute your device. We cannot hear you. Well, we can hear you now. Please proceed.
Yes, and so first, he makes the point that as a member of the Ghana Journalists Association, he is quite aware of what the Constitution provides. And a provision in the Constitution is to the effect that an individual who gives money to influence the election process is not someone who is eligible to contest any of the GJ executive position, more so the position of presidency. And so that provision is what Young calls this action that has been filed at the court on. And so he makes the reference to that story that broke a couple of days to the GJ elections. You recall it was a publication that indicated that Mr. Jumfor, in the company of businessman Samuel Tobinko, had met with some journalists in the Western region, and some monies had been paid as well as some assurance had been given. We heard Mr. Jumfor during his campaign to address this particular matter. But as far as this member of the Ghana Journalists Association is concerned, this amounts to the bribery and influence in elections, which is an issue under the Constitution and does not make him eligible to contest. Now, the claim is that he proceeded to petition the GJ Elections Committee on this particular matter prior to the polls, requesting that they disqualify Mr. Jumfor from contesting. Now, he alleges that it is out of this particular petition that led to a disagreement between the chairman of the Elections Committee and the other members, resulting in his decision to resign from participating in this particular election process. You recall that a couple of days to the polls, the chairman of the committee stepped away and resigned, and we know that the election proceeded nonetheless. A lot of people thought the election was in limbo, and so he makes reference to that and proceeds to say that on the basis of these matters, it means that one, Mr. Jumfor was not eligible to contest and should have been disqualified from contesting, and that once he contested, whatever election that took place was null and void and of no effect, and so that election he says is questionable, Ernest.
And so what are the reliefs that are being sought in this application by Justice Adoboy?
So the first point he's asking is for a declaration to the effect that the said election that first Mr. Jumfo was not eligible to contest the post, and also a declaration to the effect that the said election was null and void and of no effect. He also wants an order to set that particular post aside. He's also filed for an injunction, which is a separate application attached to this particular writ, asking that the court restrains the GJA's executives or assigns from carrying out the swearing, which we understand is expected to take place tomorrow. But that injunction application has not been heard and determined yet, Ernest.
Joseph, thank you very much. Fortunately, we're joined by Justice Adoboy himself. He joins us via Zoom. Thank you very much, Justice, for joining us. So in that writ that we've seen, which Joseph refers to, you say that the issues that you raised before the Elections Committee led to the resignation of the chairman. Is it your belief that the issues you put before them were upheld by the chairman, for which reason he had to resign?
Okay, so let's correct this. I was not the one who filed the petition.
Okay.
The petition was filed by another member of GJA from Takrady. Actually, the chairman of the Western Regional Chapter of GJA filed that petition. And so just imagine that very close to an election, a petition is filed against one of the candidates. The issues were not resolved, and then the chair of the GJA's electoral body resigns, steps down, and cites personal reasons. And you did not hear the announcement of an appointment of an acting chair whatsoever, and the elections went ahead. What does that paint? What picture does that paint of, the noble body of the Journalists Association? And so my information, verifiable information, is that the chair took a principled position to step down if things were not going to be done, for justice to be served. Then he took that principled position to step down.
But what information we also have, this is just a day before the election, the then outgone General Secretary, who has been re-elected at this particular election, Kofi Yeboah, did indicate that even in the absence of the chairman of the committee, the elections could proceed because the constitution of the GJA makes room for that. And so that cannot necessarily be a grounds to annul the elections. Don't you agree?
Okay. Now, if you listen to me carefully, I said the matters were not resolved. The matters that were brought before the GJA's committee for election were not resolved. The issues of bribery allegation were not resolved before the chairman stepped down. And this actually paints the wrong picture of an association that is the fourth estate, that is supposed to be holding duty bearers, decision makers, accountable of their stewardship. Then ours, we cannot put ourselves accountable. We don't want to stand that litmus test of, probity and accountability. This is why we want this matter investigated and the conclusions brought out for everybody to see.
Whilst what you're saying is very important, there are those who also believe that for an association that has been battered with many issues, had elections dragged for almost 2 years, we should just let sleeping dogs lie so we could proceed in, finding a new path for the GJA and getting the GJA that we need to defend the rights of journalists and be an active voice in this democracy. How do you respond to that?
Okay, my response to them is that is their view, but in my view, that is not the right way to go. For me, the right way to go is a restructuring of the GJA based on, the principles we stand for as journalists. Truth be told, no matter whose ox is God, truth must be told. And so if we ourselves, who always hold duty bearers accountable, have our organization, enmeshed in this kind of controversy here and the allegations of bribery here and there, and somebody wants us to sweep it under the carpet, then I do not want the kind of journalist organization the fellow wants. I don't know the kind of media the fellow wants in this country. But for me, I believe that if you want to be truthful, if you want to hold others, to their word, then you must also be ready to be held to your word.
And finally, Justice, what do you say also to those who say this is inspired by the fact that your candidate, your preferred candidate, lost in that election?
All right, if that is what somebody says, so be it. The question is, do I have the right, as a member of GJA, do I have the right to seek redress in court if I find out that certain things were not done as per the constitution of the GJA? Do I have that right to go to court to seek redress? If I do have the right, then that argument the fellow is making lacks water.
Has this been served on the GJA? Do you know that for a fact?
It is served on the GJA, and if they do anything tomorrow about inaugurating Abedjumfor as president, they would have been in contempt of court.
Thank you very much, Justice, for bringing us some more clarity on this action that you've taken. But my colleague Kweku Asante joins us via Zoom because just when this news broke, he was at the International Press Center to verify whether or not indeed the facts as we are learning as it is, and whether the GJA has been served these summons. Kweku, when you got to the press center, tell us what you observed.
And as men, when I got to the press center, two court officials, the bailiffs, were with these documents trying to serve officials of the Ghana Journalists Association. The office right in front, the secretariat where you'd usually go, was under lock and key. But you could observe that there were some people in the office. And so what they did was to drop the documents right in front of the office of the Journalists Association, that is the International Press Center. Indeed, before they did that, they handed it over to a gentleman they said they believed was an official of the Journalists Association around. And indeed, if you look on the face of the documents, Justice Lee Adoboy, who you just spoke with, is the plaintiff. He's the one filing this specific claim against the Ghana Journalists Association. And so when these court officials dropped these documents and left, someone emerged from the office. At the time, as journalists, I got close to the documents that had just been dropped. You could see the names and the claims. And then this official came to me and said, why was I inspecting these documents without seeking permission? And so I explained to them that when I came, the office was under key and lock. And so I could not have known that there was someone inside for me to speak with. At the time, I saw that Graphic also came in. Graphic came in with their vehicle. Adom News also came in. A number of other media houses also came around because they had heard news that this injunction had been filed. And so this woman confronted me. She sought tough to be a member of the secretariat of the GGA, that I should have sought permission before I went through the documents. And so Justice Adoboy's documents have not been laid right in front of the press center, right at the entrance. And so there may be technicalities that there are those who would say that the GG had not been served, but from the court officials and the conversations I had with them, they believe that they had served the GGA and that they expect that the association will not go ahead with the swearing-in that is scheduled for tomorrow.
Kweku, thank you very much. And we'll be following this closely to bring you up to speed on what happens from here. Let's go to Parliament now, because the NDC minority there are alleging that government is planning to spend a colossal $35 million, translating to about 280 million Ghana cedis, relocating the Ameri power plant to Kumasi. The The Energy Ministry announced plans of relocating the plant to the Ashanti regional capital last year. But speaking to the media in Parliament, ranking member on the Energy Committee, John Jinapong, said the planned expenditure is alarming and government must put a hold on it immediately. Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has the rest of the story.
The 250-megawatt power production plant was brought into the country at the peak of the energy crisis under former President John Mahama and has since become a property of the Ghanaian government. In March last year, government signaled its intention to relocate the power plant located at Aboase to Kumasi in the Ashanti region to help stabilize the national grid. But ranking member on the Energy Committee, John Jinapong, is questioning the sum involved in this transaction.
The minority in Parliament has noted with grave concern attempts by government to transfer the Amere power plant to Kumasi at a whopping $35 million. We find this strange, we find this incongruous, and we find this unfortunate. Not only are we alarmed by the astronomical price they intend spending,
the minority are also alleging that government is introducing into the deal Miscellaneous, an energy company allegedly involved in the 2018 Ameri scandal. According to John Jinapong, the involvement of the company is a ploy to benefit some members of government.
We have also noted with grave concern attempts to reintroduce Miscellaneous trading company into the whole scenario. You would recall, ladies and gentlemen, that somewhere in 2018, Miscellaneous company was at the center of the Ameri scandal, which led to the dismissal of then Energy Minister Boakye Ejaku. The Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led government is once again using surreptitious and clandestine means to appropriate the plant to their cronies and friends.
The majority side in Parliament are so far tight-lipped about the situation. What our sources are telling us is that this information that the minority have just put out is yet to come to the attention of the Mines and Energy Committee. But the minority have other concerns. They are also alleging that government is bringing pressure to bear on PURC to approve the tariff proposals that have been sent to them by ECG and other such utility companies ahead of the tariff review this year.
We have also become aware that the economic management team under Dr. Bawumia is cajoling and coercing, and in some instances compelling the PURC to increase electricity tariffs at astronomical levels. You would recall that as we speak, fuel prices have been increased by more than 100% in less than 6 months. This is unprecedented. Inflation is gone through the roof, over 30%, with food inflation leading the charts. Enough of the suffering, enough of the incompetence. In a situation like this, one would have expected the government will stand up to the plate, think outside the box, own up, accept responsibility, and do the needful.
Now, the minority in Parliament again is pushing for a full-scale parliamentary probe into circumstances which led to the violent clashes between the police and protesters on the first day of the Arise Ghana's Krom Ayeshe demonstration. The violence led to injuries on both the protesters and the police. At least 29 people were arrested in connection with the incident, and a notice of arrest served on the organizers. The second day of the protest, which ended a short while ago, well over 2 hours after 4 p.m., set by the Accra High Court, the leaders presented petitions to the Ministry of Finance and to Parliament asking for immediate government intervention. We have details of the response from government and the authorities for you shortly, but first, here's Manuel Cranton with a wrap of day 2 of the protest.
Sounds of charged demonstrators who reconverged at the Elwak Sports Stadium Wednesday morning to protest what they called the prevailing harsh economic conditions in the country and demand of government immediate remedial actions. But even before the march could start, one person was picked up for carrying a firearm. This brought to 30 the number of persons arrested in connection with the protest, which was now in its second day.
So all that I'm saying is that if you know that you have a sidearm or any kind of weapon, please kindly surrender it.
Already, the police had announced its intention to arrest leaders of the Arise Ghana group. Organizers of the protest were turned chaotic on Tuesday, a move the protesters were determined to resist.
They will just take me to the back, but hey, I'm not. They can't take me here. No, even me, I'll resist it. I'll resist that oppressor now. You can come and arrest me later on. You can invite me later on. But when I'm in the line of my duty, no, you won't. While they are making cases against us, we'll also make cases. We'll press charges against them. And they can be sure to that.
And the same police who you are accusing of bad faith?
Exactly. So that's why we are pressing charges. If you are accused of somebody who is in bad faith, what do? There are avenues that we can take them to. Don't you know that? So we will do that.
Unfazed by the violent clashes with the police on the first day and the imminent arrest, the protesters, now more determined than ever, began their march to Parliament, venting their spleen the whole way.
Corruption is too much. If we are going to talk, we will talk a lot. But the only thing we want the masses to know is we want freedom.
Rollins, good. Atamels, good. John Brahmani Mahama, good. Rollins, God will bless all of it. But this, from 2017, all my money has finished.
Me a truck driver. Me a truck driver. Say na na road to for money there. Say na to for money there. Yeah. Me fi watch assist on one mama we need go. Me fi watch assist central region. Na na road ya blow what? Ya blow na na road we are suffering. I mean na papa no fi MPP. It's me happy for na area. Me to eba me to say no. She go because truck driver pa me to my son am scanning out of fuel. It what's up? MPP me there. Me who come MPP me bo mu dia.
Same. I want ya. Sisi abontia nimpo ne bo ayedin akufado obedo ole baba ya man sisi abontia mpo wo de sampo hwe ne bo yentum to mahama obeye ya mahama ka cha ono ye ba homia de wo mbo man da wo hwe bontia hwe another one watch mo hwe you see this thing or your pad imbesiafu wo pad sisi Ghana mbesiafu wontum to pad mpo se wo mbo amansia akufado dam na wo de Ghana wo di jano.
These concerns were reaffirmed by leading members of the opposition National Democratic Congress who had joined the protest.
Various allowances that they campaigned for, that they were going to restore, they are even unable to pay. National service have been on strike. National service personnel, for the first time in the history of this country, went on strike because the allowances are not paid. What is the government doing? Yet, on the contrary, we see that we are spending humongous levels of money on other irrelevant things that do not impact directly the lives of the people. Look at how much we are spending on the cathedral. Look at how much we are spending on useless programs that the government is enjoying. Look at how much the president is spending on his flights. There is a private jet that we have bought, that we own. The president has refused to use it.
What responsible governments all across the world are doing is that they are providing a respite for their people, cushioning them, subsidizing fuel and so on. So the point we are making is that we are suffering. We want the COVID levy to be scrapped and COVID expenditures probed in a transparent manner because government is accountable to the people. We want the taxes I've already outlined, which taxes are on the price build-up of fuel, to be scrapped so that the prices of fuel can come down drastically. Aside that, we are calling for the total abrogation of the stinking Ejapa deal, in which this Akufo-Addo Bawolaya government are seeking to appropriate the mineral royalties of this country in perpetuity.
In the end, a tall list of demands captured in a petition was presented to the Finance Ministry and Parliament. Manuel Kranting, Joy News, Accra.
Well, at the Ministry of Finance, a Deputy Minister, Abnel Asari, assured the protesters that government has already begun taking steps to address their concerns.
I'd also like to thank you for giving us a copy of the petition that is supposed to go to the Speaker of Parliament. I'm happy to announce to you that government has already started meeting relevant stakeholders to see how best we can address this economic situation that has arisen as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine war. On Monday, government with the relevant ministers met some important stakeholders on the rising food prices. Government will continue to meet all the relevant stakeholders and make sure that together we come out with policies and programs that will address the issues that you have raised here today. We will make sure the minister also receives the petition and do whatever is necessary to address the concerns that you have raised. Let us continue to live in peace and guard the peace that we have jealously, because this is the only country we have, and this is the only country that God has given to us. We are in this together, and together we will make things happen. We will bring the change that we will all feel in our pockets and everywhere that we are. So I want to urge my brothers and sisters to continue to demonstrate peacefully and know that government is concerned. And we have already taken the initiatives, and very soon you will see the programs and activities that will be rolled out to address these concerns that have arisen.
Well, at Parliament, the demonstrators presented another petition to the leadership of the House, asking them to push government to act urgently. Listen to the response from the leaders.
Provoke debate accordingly for the needed attention, and to borrow the words of the second person who spoke, we need to work together. It's a truism that cause of...
We all appreciate the concerns raised by you. But as the minority leader has indicated, we must not be oblivious of matters happening around us. The world generally, and in particular, the sub-region. So yes, we have a right to demonstrate, but let's keep it peaceful in order that nobody takes advantage of what is happening to destabilize the country. That should be a paramount concern of all of us. The stability and viability of this nation should be the overall objective of all of us. So we appreciate the point that you have made. We appreciate the point that you have made. We'll take it into the chamber and consider seriously over them and consider how best to address them. So we thank you for bringing the concerns, the petition to us, and let us assure you that your representatives would not turn our backs on you, and that we will deal with the matters just so that we'll reposition the country.
Well, the minority says it will push for a full-scale probe into the violence yesterday. Samuel Okujeto, Blackwise MP for Norton.
The Flagstaff House, all the way to Afrikiko, close to, and then their leaders will proceed to the Flagstaff House.
That is why I'm asking that as member of parliament and really as a minority, will this be left at disappointment in the police and just solidarity with the injured, or we are going to see a real push for maybe a parliamentary inquiry into the incident of Tuesday, or a proper, probe into the matter?
You do know that already. We are probing a number of police excesses. What happened in Kwanza? We are looking into what happened into the Islamic Senior High School. We are going to add this to it. because the IGP has been facing us in Parliament as we look into those police brutalities and those clear abuse of power. I am going to assure you and all the demonstrators and all those who got hurt that the blood that was spilled yesterday will not be in vain. We in Parliament will demand accountability, and we will make sure that we look into these matters and those who are found culpable are brought to justice. Ultimately, a clear message must be sent that the right to demonstrate is a fundamental right.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, and as minutes still to come, a drug violence 1 year on. The Member of Parliament for the area is taking on the police for stopping the commemoration of the brutalities meted out to some of his constituents by state security agencies.
Somebody to lose their relatives, young ones, as this, and they want to commemorate the annual event, and they are being prevented. I believe it's not in the best direction.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, Member of Parliament for Ijira Setre Dumasi Alhaji Bawa Brahma Mohammed has taken on the police for stopping the commemoration of the brutalities meted out to some of his constituents by state security agencies. The family of the victims had planned a traditional Islamic prayer, but the police has since secured an injunction against the event. Speaking to Joy News' parliamentary correspondent, the MP said the action by the police does not help consolidate peace in the constituency.
Going to hold 1 year prayers or adua for the deceased. That will be tomorrow, Thursday. And they were even seeking for some support from me. So later on, they sent me an injunction that had been served on them as party. It means that they were not even called to the court. The police are going to take an injunction for whatever reason. I sitting here, I don't know. But I believe that to somebody to lose their relatives, young ones, as this, and they want to commemorate the annual event, and they are being prevented, I believe it's not in the best direction. I don't know under which condition or who prompted the police to go for this injunction, but injuncting the people from their constitutional right of performing the funeral of the young guys who died, in such a bizarre circumstances, and then the state injecting them, I believe it's not. It's not fair. It's not. In the best interest of peace and security.
Alhaji Bawa Brahma Mohammed also lamented the non-payment of compensation to some of the victims. Although the families of those who lost their loved ones have been compensated, he claims there are still some, particularly those who are injured, who are yet to be compensated.
1 year on since the disturbances in the Jura, relative to the lynching and passing on of Kaka, then one will say that, to me, the victims, those who lost their lives after the burial of Kaka during the disturbances, have not gotten justice. I'm saying this because, apart from those who lost their lives, we had those who were injured. As I speak with you now, there's a young guy called Muhammad Awal, about 19 to 20 years, who got his limb amputated. And up to now, nothing, not even the farthing, has been advanced to him in the form of compensation as recommended by the Justice Committee. And then also there was another guy who also had sustained a gunshot injury in the stomach, who was operated upon, and as a result of the injury, is not able to work.
Let's go to the northern region now. Some parents of the police barracks cluster of schools in Tamale have called on the Director General of the Ghana Education Service to reinstate the just transferred Tamale Metro Director of Education. The parents say the transfer is not fair because he was only executing his duties. The parents are alleging that the Metro Director is being transferred because of his refusal to reverse the transfer of some head teachers who have alleged to have embezzled funds in their schools. The parents converge at the Tamale Jubilee Park to express their disappointment at the transfer of Mr. Amatus Tugu Al-Hassan Mashoud. Mashoud spoke on behalf of the parents.
Parents converged at the Tamale Jubilee Park to express their disappointment at the transfer of the Tamale Metro Director of Education, Amatus Tugu. The head teachers of the police barrack schools have been cited by an internal audit of the Tamale Metro Education Unit of an embezzlement of over 200,000 Ghana cedis. The parents said they had raised concerns over extra billing by the teachers, prompting the audit. Al-Hassan Mashoud spoke on behalf of the parents.
Both parents and teachers complained of unapproved collection of entrance fees, overpopulation, etc. by both head teachers of the primary and junior high school. These complaints were confirmed by a report of officers of the Metro Directorate who visited the schools. Also, an investigation audit report confirmed the anomalies caused by both head teachers of the primary and the junior high school at police barracks. Based on these two reports, their recommendations, the Metro Director reposted the two primary head teacher in May 2022. Since his reposting, they have not yet handed over new reposted head teachers to school. We have gathered information that his refusal to hand over the school to the new head teacher as a result of both Alhaji Mohammed Harun Cambodia, former Regional Director of Education, and the Regional Director of Education's request to the Metro Director to reverse the transfer, which he refused. Alhaji Cambodia sent PTA chairman and the SMC chairman to Nyab Bulana to write to the Director General to remove the Metro Director from Metro Education Office for refusing his directives, which was written.
The parents said the transfer of Mr. Tugu, if made stand, would mean that any incoming director would not have the power to execute his work. They therefore appealed to the various stakeholders to intervene.
Now, Ghana's largest union for public sector workers, the Trades Union Congress, has heightened demand for the immediate payment of cost of living allowance for all public sector workers. The TUC controls over 700,000 of public sector workforce and indicates that its members are suffering from the excesses of the debilitating economic hardship in the country. General Secretary of the TUC, Dr. Yalban, tells Joy News proposals have been sent to government on their cost of living allowance, and they expect expeditious action to be taken.
Our members are saying that what will help them now, when inflation is 27%, is COLA of 20%, because we got 7% already. That is what we need now. This is not a time to go and be talking about tax and so on. So we expect that the COLA that will be given to us will not be taxed, because that COLA, government is not going to pay social security on it. It's just an allowance. So that one is given. As for what government can do to actually reduce the burden, one of them is what Austin Government is suggesting. But that's not what we are proposing now. We are focused. We are proposing 20% increase in everybody's salary for now, so that people can, have their standard of living not worsened.
When exactly do you want this to be done?
We want it today.
Today?
Yes.
So are you telling us that since the May Day speech you delivered, you called on the president that immediate steps should be taken to meet the labor front to deal with it? Are you telling us that since that pronouncement, there have not been any effort by the government to meet you to discuss it?
Correct. They have not talked about COLA. Nobody has called us to talk about COLA, and that is the reason we wrote. We thought that after our special appeal to President on May Day, he will take us seriously. We didn't hear anything from him. We didn't hear anything from any of the ministers. So we have written formally asking him to pay. And that letter went only on Monday. So only 2 days ago we sent the letter. We have time. You know, we are not just interested in doing things to harm the economy.
You're watching Journey's Prime with me, Ernest Manu. We're taking a break. On Worry 10, we have the latest in showbiz. Let's now find out what's happening in showbiz, and the Queen is here to bring us up to speed.
Hello to you, Ernest.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Breaking news coming in is that US singer R. Kelly has been sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for sex charges. So in September, a jury in New York convicted the R&B artist, 55 years old, of racketeering and sex trafficking crimes committed over 3 decades in the music industry. The Chicago native, whose real name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, has already spent close to 3 years behind bars. He currently faces separate criminal charges in 3 other cases. So that's
too bad for R. Kelly.
What's new with R. Kelly? Do you have any of his songs that you can?
The Storm is Over is one of my favorites, and If I Could Turn Back the
Hands of Time,
I love. And that ballad, I've forgotten. There's a very special
Don't put me
one
on the spot because I can't remember anything.
But beyond that, you know, he's also a very good, songwriter.
Very
he wrote
good.
for Ruben Studdard.
Yes.
I Need an Angel. And wrote for Whitney.
Whitney Houston, yeah.
That last song.
Very. I don't know.
Lay Me Down. That's
some people are asking if he'll be writing music, back in jail. We're not too sure.
I think I saw a story where he says he wants to do a project in jail to help people who have interest in music or actually have talent, so they could do something even from prison. I read that. Unfortunately, he would have to stay much longer than we all thought.
Oh, well, we'll be looking forward to that project back in prison, but we wish him all the best. I don't know. But somebody else who wants to do something else, take up another responsibility, is KK Fosu, musician KK Fosu. He wants to be elected as Member of Parliament come 2024.
Ooh.
Yes.
Which constituency?
Well, he is.
It's not said yet.
But he spoke on Hit FM about.
I'm told Ikuapem North is where he wants to stand.
Ikuapem North. He spoke on Hit FM about what he wants to do when he becomes MP for Ikuapem North.
Okay.
If you are voted MP right now, which change can you bring to your society?
I swear, first change will be agriculture. I will focus on agriculture. I will make sure I will make agriculture a one back corner for the youth. And without agriculture, we can never make anything. We have so many land, so many resources, but we are not making use of it. Trust me, Andy, after agriculture is entertainment, music entertainment, sports entertainment. That is what I will focus on for the talent. And then, looking at me go school. You also talk about degree for doctor. I have a sound engineer. Wako school. Every kid a degree. Me na mama na as a sound engineer. So you should know, self musicians nangas and yangas are a whole body in an institution already. So Andy, trust me, I will focus on agriculture first, and I will make sure say youth agriculture every page and work.
Okay.
So yeah, so he'll be like the third showbiz personality to one.
So
there's John Dumelo, there's Obwo.
Yeah, Jifa is already there.
And there's most of them like it.
Yeah, there's another one. Let's see. When are you heading to Parliament? Which constituency would that be?
Enumboso.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but
think about it. I can be your campaign chairman.
I should think about that. I have to take other roles in Ghana to change.
Yeah, we can work it all out. So just give it.
Would you support me? Do I have the support of the Joy News?
I'm your campaign chairman. Of course, everyone in Joy News will transfer our votes to the constituency.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
What we'll be talking about, though.
All right, Becky, thank you very much for bringing that show. That's
me.
our show for tonight. Thank you very much for your company. Please log on to myjournline.com. We have more stories that you can read more about the GJ election and the application for injunction that has been filed, and also more on the demonstration today.